Hello students! Today I'm going to be helping you with your math assignment on page 339. But before we do that, I want to go over some important rules to remember when comparing fractions. For example, here 3/4 and 3/6 have the same numerator. And with fractions that have the same numerator, the smaller denominator is the greater fraction. So in this case, 3/4 is greater than 3/6 because the denominator is smaller. Now, for fractions that have the same denominator, for example, this one here has 5 in common, then the larger numerator is the greater fraction. So in this case, 4/5 is greater than 3/5 because the numerator is larger. Please keep these rules in mind, and I will be posting this in the lesson so that you can refer to it when you work in your problems with your fraction problems, okay? All right, so on problem number 1, it says the shelves in Roger's bookcase are 7/8 yard long. Anna's bookcase has shelves that are 5/8 yard long. Whose bookcase has longer shelves, and how do you know? All right, so keeping in mind the rules that we already went through, the first thing that I am going to do is I am going to write the fractions here over the line. 7/8. I'm going to leave a space and I'm going to write the next one, which is 5/8. Now, according to the rules that we just saw, I can recall that fractions that have the same denominator, then the larger fraction will be the one that has the bigger numerator. Okay, so I'm guessing here that 7/8 is greater than 5/8. All right, now on the next one, as you can see here, it says Rosa buys 3/4 pound of cheese. Lucy buys 3/8 pound of cheese. Who buys more cheese? All right, now here I see two fractions that have the same numerator. And for the same numerator, the rule was that the fraction that has the smallest denominator is the greater fraction. So again, I'm going to write my fractions on top of the line, 3/4. I leave a space and then I write 3/8. And then for fractions that have the same numerator, the larger fraction will be the one that has the smallest denominator. So I'm guessing that 3/4 is greater than 3/8. All right? Now, on the next one, it says you have to compare two fractions that are 8/4 and 8/6, all right? Which means you're comparing two fractions that have the same numerator. You already know the rules for that. So your job is going to be to write the two fractions and to compare them using the rules that I taught you, all right? Now, what's going to happen if you have a fraction or if you have a problem that has two fractions with different numerators and denominators, which means these fractions are completely different? Well, in this case, this is what you are going to do. In that case, you are going to write, you're going to draw two number lines. Do not look at this half because that was already there by default, okay? But you're going to draw two number lines, and on the first number line, you are going to plot the fractions for the first fractions that are on the problem. And on the number line, on the second number line, you're going to plot the fractions that are on the second part of your problem. So the fractions were 3/4 and 6/8. Okay, so on top here, I'm going to be plotting 3/4. Okay, now if I am going to plot 3/4, that means that since 3/4 have a denominator of 4, that means I'm going to divide my number line into 4 sections. Okay, this is already divided into 2, so what I'm gonna do is cut in half again, cut in half again, and now I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 sections. Okay, and it's asking me to plot 3/4. Okay, so I'm gonna start over here by saying that this is 0/4, this is 1/4, this one is 2/4, and I'm just gonna do it on top because I can't delete that one. This one then will be 3/4, and this one is gonna be 4/4. Okay, now the next one was 6/8, right? Here I'm gonna be plotting 6/8, which means I need to divide my number line into 8 equal sections. So I'm gonna start by dividing in half first, then in half again, and then in half again. And I find that that way is easier for me to divide. Lastly, I'm gonna count my sections to make sure I have 8, right? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I am right. Now I'm going to be labeling my fractions. This would be 0/8, 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8. And I can continue, but since I already found the one that I was looking for, I'm just gonna leave it up to there. And now, remember that the greatest fraction will be the one that is closest to number 1 or to the whole, okay? So 3/4 is right here, almost next to the 1, and 6/8 is also almost next to the 1. And what I see with my eyes is that these two fractions are located at the same point from 0 to 1. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that 3/4 and 6/8 are equivalent fractions. And for equivalent fractions, what is the symbols that I need to use? Well, first thing is that I'm gonna write my fractions here, 3/4. I leave a space, I write 6/8. And then according to the number line, I noticed that 3/4 and 6/8 are equivalent fractions. Okay, if it's asking you to explain your answer, you're gonna explain what you just did. You drew your fractions, you plotted your fractions in the number line, and because they were located at the same point from 0 to 1, your conclusion was that they are equivalent fractions. Okay, so that's one way that you can explain it. You can say that it's because they are located in the same point in the number line. Okay, and then the next one you're gonna do on your own. Now remember that these two fractions here, 5, 6, and 1/2, are two completely different fractions. They don't have a numerator in common, or they don't have a denominator in common, which means you're gonna have to go to you're gonna have to draw two number lines and plot your number lines. I mean plot your fractions here and check which one is closer to 1, or if they are located at the same point, which makes them equivalent fractions. Okay, you are gonna have to figure that out after you do your number lines, all right? And that's the end of your assignments. All right, so see you next time. Bye bye.